So we need to rally around this and circle on this further. Our next panel is on diverse smallholder farming. We have Mayor O'Neill. We have Abuelo Antonio, which isn't here right now. Let me make sure to ping him so we can dial in. Dr. Vanessa Enoch and Kara Boyd. Kara Boyd, Haley, excuse me, Harvey was able to introduce ahead of me. She's Kara Boyd Lumbee is president of the Association of American Indian Farmers. It is, I think, which is called the AAIF.
We have an opportunity to
provides advocacy, outreach, and technical assistance to American Indian farmers and ranchers. Kara is an Air Force veteran who serves as an advisor for the Native Organizers Alliance and a co-founder of Indigenous Cultural Ways. She was appointed to a legislative committee to address the Indian children welfare laws, big issue, and concerns American Indian families. Currently serves on the board of directors for Kiss the Ground. Congratulations for that recent nomination, Kara. And is married to civil rights activist John Boyd Jr., president of the National Black Farmers Association. The Boyds have spent over 30 years advocating for civil rights and social justice while trying to retain and increase land ownership for minority farmers. And thank you for that. Kara serves as the NBFA Event and Program Coordinator. NBFA has been successful in entering into an MOU with the U.S. Forest Service. By the way, if you guys did not know about that, check it out. U.S. Forest Service, United States Department of Agriculture and Environmental Protection Agency. And while the Boyds were featured in docuseries The American Farm on the History Channel, Kara was featured in a docuseries Unexpected Beauty, Women We Love by Estee Lauder on her farm. In 2019, the Boyds purchased a 1,000-acre farm with 5 documented Indian village sites on the Roanoke River in Virginia, an ancestral homeland for the Saponi tribe. Kara created Saponi Ventures LLC and secured a Veterans Affairs hemp grower's license. Her first hemp crop was grown using regenerative agriculture practices and BAMFX. Takes the shout plug for Harvey there on the BAMFX. Saponi Ventures will seek to expand and market procured hemp flour and the hemp products for small-scale farmers. So as you know, the panelists, Kara, you're up. I guess the question for this panel here is, what model should we adopt and implement to both scale up and build a farm brand in community markets to support local smallholder farmers? What should we be aware of in terms of scaling up and supporting these smallholder farmers?
Well, thank you for having me. And this is what I do day in and day out. I eat, drink, and sleep farming. And we have a hashtag. In fact, I have 2 that I use. One is Let's Get Growing, and the other one is We Grow Farmers. And in the chat, I shared the website, wegrowfarmers.com. And one of the things that I have learned that's very discouraging and oftentimes a stumbling block for small-scale growers and producers is self-identification. And for them to really understand that there is no minimum land size requirement and no minimum annual sales to have a farm and to be registered with USDA as a farm operation. And I think that if we're able to address that and really educate community members, especially landholders, there are a lot of people who are growing and producing small scale. And what they'll say is, I grow a garden. Well, guess what? That's a farming operation. And the difference between the garden and the farm is that the garden is a hobby, a farm is a business. A gardener is a hobby and a farmer is an occupation. And so that's where going into USDA, requesting a farm serial number, getting on grid, and actually beginning to apply and participate in USDA programs, I believe will really change the dynamic. Where we see that 99% of agriculture producers are European or not people of color, the reason we see that number is because the 2017 Ag Census or any of the agriculture census are voluntary. And a lot of our growers and producers just aren't on grid. They aren't enrolled in these programs. They're not receiving subsidies. They're not participating in taxpayer-funded programs.
A lot of good points. And how do we get the word out? I mean, but you've been working with small scale farmers. Um, what can be done, and how can we help?
Well, what I can say is, you know, encouraging everyone to go take a copy of your deed, whether you own your property or you're just leasing it, go to your county FSA office, request that farm serial number. Think of it like a 911 address on your property or a VIN number on your vehicle. And if DMV doesn't know who owns the car, then you can't get a tag. So in order to get compensation and services from USDA for your farm, they need to know who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. And so that would be my recommendation. I tell people there was telegram, telephone, telecara. If they don't want someone to know, they better not tell Kara. So we're going to work very hard to continue to get the word out and to encourage individuals to go in. Because of the decades of discrimination at USDA, a lot of people are leery. They don't trust USDA. And so we have the MOU, which is helping to build that relationship. Do I think everything is perfect at USDA? No, but they do have excellent programs, and we need to be more represented, and we need to participate at a higher level, because we all know that he who controls the food controls the man. So we want to make sure that everyone, you know, who needs additional assistance can reach out to the National Black Farmers Association. I shared the website, blackfarmers.org, or the Native American Farmers.org. And we also have a women's organization, womenfarmers.net. And so we're here to help. All of our services are free of charge. We don't charge. And we just want to make sure that we are providing advocacy, outreach, and direct technical assistance to farmers, growers, and producers of all.
I think we lost her.
I'm back. I
Oh,
put
good.
my not to start, so sorry.
I got you. Our experience with Kara is she really does what she says, and she says what she does. And we are beyond delighted to be associated with the group and move forward with everyone. So Silvio, back to you. You're, I think, quarterbacking all this now.
Well, let me jump in for a second. Again, I'm Dr. Vanessa Enoch, and thank you so much.
We lost you, Vanessa.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Kara, for sharing all of that information and your wisdom. We were on a Clubhouse chat, and for those of you who don't know what Clubhouse is, it is a new social media platform. And we were on Clubhouse just yesterday, and one of the ladies on the panel shared with us that because she is a small farmer, she's unregistered, that she cannot gain access to any of that capital. She did not think about or even consider all of the avenues to gain access. However, there are avenues, especially in this new funding vehicle that the US government has now advanced, both through the monies, the $10 billion that's coming through for agriculture, as well as the small business resources that have been advanced. And it'll give local farmers and local communities an opportunity, even if you're interested in starting a farm and you have not already engaged and haven't done that, it'll give you the access to capital to even purchase the land and start a farm. And I think that's important. Moreover, many small businesses just don't have access to the information that they need in order to grow and to be sustainable. One of the things that I have appreciated as I was a candidate for Congress is being able to engage in these conversations and really understand the nature of the challenges that we are all facing. And one of the things on a panel that we did last year in September with farmers, they talked about food security being a national security issue and how we have to, ensure that we bring the production of food back locally, because, as you know, anybody knows, you don't give people the opportunity to provide your food, especially if relationships aren't always in the right order, right? We don't want food becoming a challenge. And in addition to that, as our farmers are aging and we no longer have a viable community to hand those farms over to, we have to do with what Mayor Neal talked about, and that is bringing sexy ag, right? Bringing agriculture back as a something that is sexy, that people want to engage in, people want to do. And we can't bring sexy ag without bringing women to the conversation. And many women are engaging in the farm community, and we want to also encourage that. And so it's exciting to have Kara on here talking about farming, and to have Maria talking about farming, and all of the women who have engaged in this conversation today. And we want to continue that conversation. And so as Silvio mentioned, this is the first of many conversations. But I think the most important thing that has happened here is that we've talked about solutions. And I think that that is, you know, one of the most important things that we can do instead of continually talking about the problem. And so we want to bring all of these resources together. We want to bring people into conversations about making things happen and about changing the situation and the status quo as it has been. When we think about who owns the land right now, I believe I just read something that said that Bill Gates owns like 60% of all the farmland that's available right now, if you can imagine. So we have to get back to making sure that people own the land, that farmers and individuals and local growers own their land, because one of the major challenges is that farmers have shared with us is that they can't control their pricing. And so some of the things that have to be considered when we think about the lack of control over pricing is what adds to the high cost of farming. And if they are also having to rent the land, we know it's more costly to rent than it is to own. And so some of the investors who have an interest in helping to gain access to the land, you know, this is a major issue that we have to begin to impact. And so I'm excited that we have so many people here who are all about solutions. And I hope that people who are on here listening hear that there is something that you can do in a way that you can engage to help make an impact and help bring change to this particular issue. So thank you.
And just can I just add one little tiny thing?
Go ahead, Harvey.
And this is not political at all. The new administration seems to understand the history of the difficulty of getting minorities, indigenous, women, you know, the whole thing, you know, what has really happened over the last 50 years. And our team is working very closely now with the various departments within the new administration. Education, they want to train the next generation of farmers. Interior, they want to make sure that the land is available to disadvantaged farmers, even if they move to where they were maybe 30 years ago, make land available to neighborhoods where you want to have gardens in the inner cities and deal with the nutrition deserts that we're talking about. Grow your own food, teach people how to do this. So we are 197% behind all the initiatives that everybody are talking about. And, you know, we can't wait to get going. It's time to get going now. That's all I wanted to say.
Just to piggyback kind of on what Dr. Enoch said and what Harvey said as well, you know, we have to be intentional about marketing farming, and not just in the greater sphere, but also in our educational systems, in our elementary schools. We need to expose farming to our children, and so we can grow our farmers from children, and so that they have that in their blood, because it's a difference when people do things just for money or when they do it from their heart. Because when you do it from your heart, then that's sustainable. And so we have to put farming, we have to put sustainability of life, because food is life. We have to put that back in the hearts of our children.
And that's why we're actually doing this with Miami-Dade. We're working with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We're working with the 4-H, because without wasting any more time, Omar, could not agree with you more, and I think we got to get next step of organized, establish real programs, figure out who's going to do what. And let's go
We
get it.
also have to have people at the table who we're trying to talk to. We cannot talk at people. We need to have them at the table as well.
And our guy, Victor Robinson, who Karen knows very well, he actually made that happen.
Right.
And we're talking to Marcia Fudge, and we're talking to Cedric, Richmond, and, the Department of Interior. So we got to have a plan. We got to work the plan and execute. It's just that simple.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Back to you, Sil. Silvio? Does this mean I have more airtime? I'm only kidding.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Can you
Somebody
imagine?
take
Can
the
you
mic.
imagine
I'm
Harvey,
only
you
kidding.
having more airtime, right? Yeah.
But give me a little dead air. That's a problem.
But let me say this. There are windows of opportunity, and I believe that right now is that moment that we have to move with dispatch to deal with what you're talking about, Harvey. We cannot wait any longer. And so
Right.
we need to be very intentional with timelines and benchmarks and measures to
Good.
make sure that these things come to fruition.
Mayor, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. So there's two things that I think about, and that is a conversation you and I had about ensuring that we are empowering small farmers and small business people, and as opposed to going in, extracting resources and going in to have to gain, and not to make sure that those individuals who we touch are empowered, that everybody, there is enough opportunity, it's enough resources, even natural resources, that we can equip and empower and make sure that the people who, we can begin to impact and begin to help incubate and accelerate what they're already doing, that we walk away leaving them in a better position than we found them. And also, I like what you said about the benchmarks. One of the things that Ashi, Haley, and myself has been working on and discussing is, how do we establish benchmarks that are going to help accelerate these businesses? And we have to look at best practices, which is one of the things that in bringing all of these wonderful speakers together today, it gives us the opportunity to have access to people who have information, people who have experience, and they're already doing some of this stuff, so that we can establish benchmarks. And we have centers of excellence that we can now bring people together who have the capital or have the knowledge, and join them up with people who, like the young lady who said she has an innovative concept that she wants to share with the world here in the chat today, right? She's from Tuskegee, Alabama. And so we want
maybe Shara or Janice, one of the two.
It was Janice,
Yes,
I believe.
right.
And
Right.
So we want to take those kinds of ideas and incubate those ideas and accelerate them. If people have concepts and innovations that they want to bring to life, we need to, take a look at those concepts. We need to establish the benchmarks, and to make sure that we take those ideas and, we duplicate those ideas across the world. We all want some of Derek's sorbet, right? We all want to, and we want to be healthy. And so we can duplicate some of these concepts and ideas and utilize this as a springboard for those ideas as we begin to not just have these conversations, but as we begin to execute on some of the ideas and to make sure that we foster continual acceleration. And we can only do that if we move beyond the conversation stage and we move to this this idea of now let's get the work done, right? Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Absolutely.
Well, I said to Silvio before this, and then I'll stop. I think what's most important, this was the first program, and congratulations to Silvio and to Haley and to Marion and whoever else was part of the team that actually put this all together. The next step is, how do we follow up on all of this? So it wasn't just a good feel-good couple of hours on a Friday afternoon, but as Omar said, we create some specific action items, assign some responsibilities, and figure out how to execute stuff. I mean, you know, back to whoever, but how do we make it live?
And I appreciate that, Harvey. And that's what Ashi and Haley and myself have been working on in the background. We've been working on a system that can breathe life into these ideas and to capture this knowledge that so many people have and the resources so many people have, so that, you know, we can accelerate these ideas. You know, I think of all of the big problems that are all surrounding this idea of food security, you know, whether we're talking about aquaculture or climate change, you know, all of those things, even, you know, when you talk about poverty, all of those things are really symptoms of some of the same problems. And, you know, not everyone is impacted by food security in the same way. Some people have an abundance while others live in lack. And so we, as, you know, responsible citizens of the world, of the globe, you know, we can come together, bring our resources together and utilize what our capacities to make an impact in the world. And I think that the conversation that Ashi, Haley, and myself have started, and the concept that we've already began to develop is really one that is sustainable and one that can take advantage of all of the knowledge that's shared here to accelerate these ideas globally. And so you'll hear more. We're going to be sitting down at least with everybody on the panel and speaking face to face on a chat, so we can figure out how we can harvest your ideas. And I see Ashi's hands are going to.
Right, I know, and I see Kara's hand. I promise we're gonna get to you, I promise. But I just want to let everybody know, you know, we're talking about this concept of this NGO accelerator. I just put a link into the chat to give you a better idea of what the next steps are, the infrastructure, and how to address things of which we've started talking about in terms of concrete and foundation today. So Harvey, to answer your question, there's a link in the chat.
Great.
Yeah, and I think that is a real, that has, I think, have been something very resounding, right? It's like, okay, not you know, not just have a conversation and feel good, but let's really galvanize together to drive this forward, right? So I mean, we launched the Blue Economy Club, which we're very active in, right? And that's, I think, a perfect example of like how we already have a business incubator. We're going to be accepting applications for new solutions and businesses to incubate them, partner with the Founders Institute to accelerate them, and launching a dedicated investment fund to be able to invest into each one of the steps along the way. But that's just some of the things. We do want to have a call to action. In fact, we would love to poll and have your ideas. If you guys have any ideas of what you would like to see as next action steps, put them in the chat. We're going to be able to comb through that next steps, send an email out to everybody that participated, create an enrollment list for anybody that owns a farm so we can pair up farming. As one of my mentors had, like, we have what we need, right? The people that have, this is what we have and this is what we need. And then maybe we'll sort through that and match people up, connect different communities, smallholder farmers with maybe distribution and technology, with BAMFX, with Harvey's products. I'm like, I mean, just whatever we think that really might be needed so we can drive the conversation forward. These are just some ideas. I'm just a facilitator. So, I'm not really leading the conversation. You are. So I want to make that clear. And Kara, I want to make sure that we get to you because I know that you have some wisdom to share with us.
Right. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate being here today. I want to kind of allude to a little bit of how words matter. And what we're hearing in the $4 billion, well, the $5 billion for emergency relief for farmers of color is $4 billion in debt relief. And actually, it's not debt relief, it's loan repayment. And what USDA
Creo
is
que
also...
falta la conexión. Sí. ¿Qué pasó?
Hello?
Now that's some real live farm stuff right there,
Oh,
guys.
whoever put
Real
that
embodiment, right?
That was
Yeah.
very
No
cool.
entiendo ni
That was
Yeah.
priceless.
que venga
Yeah.
Sofía y que ponlo
we,
y lo
can we
ponemos a
mute?
la...
Times when things are said and done, we see the good intention, but the devil is in the details.
Mm.
And so what we have in the $4 billion repayment is $4 billion going back into USDA. Once that $4 billion is repaid to USDA, how's that money going to come back out? Is it going to come back out 99% to white male farmers, or is it going to come back out 99 or 100% to farmers of color that it was paid in to provide relief for? So I just kind of wanted to hit on that. Also, access to capital is very challenging for new and beginning farmers, especially going to USDA, because they have a requirement of 3 years of experience, day-to-day operation. And they'll say, well, go rent someone else's farm and then come back. Well, oftentimes when land becomes available, you have to seize the moment. And one of the non-traditional ag products that we have that's been available to us is a 70% loan to value. And I'm working with a Black female farmer right now for about $570,000 property, which means she would have to come out of pocket about $180,000, and she just doesn't have that. And so that's, a couple of things I wanted to highlight as an actual farmer and trying to gain access to capital and access to land, but also for those out there in the financial world who may not be aware that agriculture is actually exempt from the Truth in Lending Act.
Hmm.
So a lot of people aren't familiar with that.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What are the repercussions or what is the opportunity there?
Well, that means that lenders don't have to notify borrowers of change in interest rates or even UCC filings.
Oh,
So
wow.
what happened with us is about 60 days after we closed on one of our farms, the lender went to our county and filed a UCC filing saying that they had a claim to our timber on our farm that they were providing financing, but also any property that we acquired in the future that had timber on. And when we went to acquire a new farm, that's when we discovered it. So that lender, when they filed that UCC filing, that financial statement, putting against our property and other farms that we may acquire, it's concerning. And I don't understand why agriculture tends to be considered maybe lesser than, or that they don't really need full disclosure. But truth in lending, you would think when it comes to land ownership and liens, that farmers and our properties would be at the forefront. Thank you.
And I want to chime in on something that my godfather shared with me when I was asking him questions about his 15 years in farming as a Latino farmer here in South Florida. And I was like, hey, look, if somebody wants to get into farming, how, like me, myself and Pedram, right, which we love technology, we love farming, but we don't really own farms. We're not actually farming every day. Best way to get started. And he goes, you need to at least buy an acre, get an acre of land, and then you register this acre of land with the, somebody help me here, with the department, with the FDA, is it? I think that or USDA, US Department of Agriculture. Yeah. If you need to get at least 1 acre. And when you have at least an acre, then you can register this with the USDA, and you have to keep this registration active for at least a year and then report on what you do at that acre.
And when you've had that acre for at least a year, then you open up the possibilities of the USDA to support you as a smallholder farmer, right? I think that was the best advice that I was able to distill. He was very reluctant. He's like, hey, look, I'm out of the business now. But I think that was like a very practical thing. It's like, get your hands on land, like you're saying. And when you get the land, register it immediately with the USDA, because it takes a while to build a track record. Kara, I see your hand is up again. And one of the things that I'd like to dovetail into your point, reading your bio, is that he because he successfully and profitably, right, reported on farming 15 years, now he was able to be one of the hemp farmers in Florida, which is a requirement. I don't know if it's a requirement in everywhere in the US, but in Florida, you have to be profitable track record with the USDA of farming 15 years. And I know that you're also in a little bit in the hemp practice.